Hi, everyone, and welcome back. I'm Adriana Monique Alvarez, the founder of Alma Publishing, and we are continuing our interviews with the contributors of Uncensored, Untamed, Unleashed. And I'm so excited to be speaking to Jacquelyn Atkins today. Hi, Jacqueline. How are you?
Hi, Adriana. I'm fabulous. Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. And where are you joining us from this morning? Or, yeah, it's morning for you, yes?
It is morning for me, fairly early in the morning. I'm in Byron Bay on the east coast of Australia.
I love it.
In the middle of summer, and there's lots of beach and sunshine, and it's beautiful.
Oh my goodness. Well, you had me at beach and sunshine. Like I'm solar powered. So, before I go somewhere, I look up how many days of sunshine they have each year, and then I know if that's going to work for me or not. So I think that would work for me. And here's the thing. Okay, so when did we start working together, Jacqueline? Like 2019? 2018?
Yeah. 19, yeah. I think it was, yeah.
So anything, pre-2020 feels like we've been together for lifetimes, right? So we started working together, and then I got to meet you, and we had like the most fabulous lunch when we went to Sydney, and we got to hang out. And we still work together. Like you're one of those people, if you email something out, I'm like, oh, I want that. Yep, I'll take that. Oh, yes, please. So I want to talk a little bit about your work because I find it so unique. There is literally one Jacquelyn Atkins. And this is how I like to say it, is you really taught me that your business is its own energy body. And either you're connecting with it and listening to it and talking to it, or you're just off doing your own thing and it's over here going, hey. So how would you describe it? That's the way I see it.
That's a beautiful description. And it is. And what I will always say to my clients is the moment you have the idea for your business, basically this separate entity forms with its own energy body, its own chakra system, and it has its own blueprint. So it's like it has its own purpose for incarnating. And it's almost like the moment you had that idea for it, that energetic entity and you just came together, ready to co-create. And so you have your purpose and what you want to bring through in business, but it actually has its as well. And it's about communicating with it and sharing that path together.
Okay, so I am sure that there's going to be people watching this who go, I didn't know that. And I've never connected to the energy body of my business. What's a good first step?
I'm sorry, Adriana, you just dropped out for me. So I didn't hear that question.
That's okay. So if someone has never done this and they didn't realize this, what's like a first step you'd give them to connecting to their business?
I have a very simple meditation that I lead people through that you can just do on your own. You don't need me there. But basically, you close your eyes, ground yourself. Grounding is very important for me, growing the roots down, really connecting into the flow of your breath so you're present. And then simply invite your business energy or entity in. And I always describe it as it's coming from a distance and it's coming towards you. You may see it in your imagination, take on some form. And as it comes in and up to you, feel its energy. See how you feel, how you respond to it. And I'll often guide connecting through the hands, putting your hands in front of you and asking it to put its energy in your hands. Just feeling that is a great start. And then the next step from that is just to ask a question in your mind's eye, just send it a question. What you might have a choice in your business. You might just say, what's the priority for me right now? Just send a question almost like telepathically, and then just see what comes back into your mind. And people are amazed that they actually get something, that just crosses their mind. And it's like, whoa. And of course, our tendency can be push it away. I just made that up. But it's a practice. And so it's very, very simple. There's no, major ritual behind it, if you like. It's an intention.
And I love this because that's what I learned when you walk me through this and you taught me this. It completely changed the way I did business. Number one, I realized I wasn't doing this alone, right? And it wasn't even about just what I wanted. It was about tuning in. So Derek and I had always done this as partners. And then it was like, oh, right. What if I'd never had a conversation with Derek and wondered why it wasn't going well, right? Now, the other thing I find so interesting is that when you connect to your business, it will give such clear guidance. So one of the favorite questions that you've given me in the past is like, are you tired? Do you need a break? Or are you like ready to go? Ready to run with some idea. And the more I asked my business and tuned in to see, is this the time it needs rest or a time that it's ready to, it's inspired to action, then that began to inform my schedule. Now, you inspired me to create a yin week every single month. Will you talk a little bit about what that means to have yin time in your business?
Yeah, I will. Just to backtrack a tiny bit, our business is based on the traditional system of business, which came from a patriarchal model, and it's a very yang energy. And yang meaning you're putting energy out all the time. You might use the term masculine, feminine. I prefer to use yang and yin, so it doesn't have the gender sort of connotation. And in the yang, it's yang. Business is yang in that you're putting energy out traditionally. Many women go into business and that exhausts them. It feels like hustle. It feels stressful. And it's actually because they're out of balance. There's a harmony that's missing between the yin energy, which is the yin is the receptive energy. It's the going in. It's the still time. And from my play in my own business and what I've shared with my clients, I found if we can begin to balance that and reclaim the yin, which is actually such a true nature for us as women, that we bring a harmony and an ease and a spaciousness into business. So one of the things I did very early on when I had this realization in my week was to create what I called a yin week, which is always the week leading up to and sort of around the new moon, that time for me, because that is an inward time. And so in my calendar every month, I block off that week. It doesn't mean I don't work, but I don't do anything that requires external action, putting energy out there. So I won't do lives. I don't have clients that week. It tends to be my creative week where I go in and give myself the space to create. And that's brought a beautiful balance to my business, that honoring.
And here's the thing that is so interesting, because we think this, we've been trained that this outward motion, this action is what brings us what we want. That gives us the result we desire. And yet what I found is the more yin time I have, the more my capacity to receive increases. And so I might not have a single call or do any outward action and receive big time. And getting this really deep within us is so key, because this is not how we've been taught. Yeah.
That's exactly right. And I have exactly the same experience, Adriana. And the thing is, what people don't realize is receiving is a yin energy. And if we want to receive in our business more clients, more money, more support, whatever it is we want more of, it's imperative that we go into a receptive space to allow that in. Because if we are constantly in yang, promoting, pushing out, it doesn't allow the space for almost like what we're promoting or whatever to come into us. It doesn't allow the space for us to receive. And I had that same experience. My yin week, or even I've just had a 3-week break over the Christmas New Year period, it becomes my most abundant time because I am fully in my yin space. I've taken the inspired action. You mentioned that term before. And for me, that's what the yang is about. It's not just about showing up and putting stuff out there because you have to, because that's what business is about. It's doing it when inspiration strikes, because when inspiration strikes, the energy is there for you to put out. And it's a much more aligned energy. It's a more vibrant energy. It's an energy that's more true to you, and it's more it's effortless. And
Yes.
that is when you do that and go back into your yin, and that's when you receive, in phenomenal ways.
It's true. And this is the other thing that you really planted in me over and over is you have certain ways that you receive. You have a pattern of receiving, but there's a lot of ways to receive. And I have experienced this so much. So yes, more clients, more money, but more gifts, more unexpected things falling out of the. And it's just, oh yes, receiving in general, abundance beyond these things that we define as, the ways that provide for me. And that's what I love too. It is so much more expansive.
Yeah. And I do see that often in clients where they are so focused and so blinkered on, I will only receive through my business. And the business is one channel. And it's almost like telling the universe you've got all these constraints around receiving. And yet it's actually about receiving from everywhere. And if we open to receiving through our business and elsewhere, we're open to receiving. And what you find is more then comes through that business channel as well as all the other channels. And we don't realize that. And I see this with women, particularly because it's like, I want to be independent. I want to be financially independent. It's got to come through my business. And that's just like a big block of energy that really stops the flow.
So good. Now, I want to talk about something you shared in your chapter because, of course, I was drawn to it. You talk about how we are drawn to and have a strong connection to certain places on earth. So I want you to talk a little bit about that and why that is.
So it's interesting. Can I just tell a quick little story about the chapter, just because I was just talking about inspired action. When I first said to you, I'd love to write a chapter, it was going to be all about business energy because that's what I talk about. And what was so funny is when I first sat to write it, it was not flowing. It was such an effort to write it. And then, as you know, I had a personal situation where I couldn't write for the majority of the time. And then just before I wanted to send that chapter to you, before it was due, I had a little window and suddenly it was like, I have to write about the earth energy, not about business. And because it has played such a big part in my life. And all my sessions, all my meditations start with grounding and connecting to the earth beneath you and bringing through that energy, because that is where our abundance comes from on the earthly plane. So yes, when I wrote the chapter, I talked a lot about my travels and talked about being called to certain places on earth. And it is, to me, it almost feels like we have some sort of contract, if you like, with that land. And that land has an agreement with us to share its energy in some way. And we are sharing our energy with that land. So there's this beautiful sort of, a bit like with the business, in that you are giving and receiving from each other. It's one cycle. And I always found it interesting that there were some places called me like that, and others, I just didn't want to go there. Like I just had no desire to go, even though my mind might have said, well, why don't you go there? That's a really sacred place, or why don't you want to go there? But there was nothing calling me. And what's interesting is many of the places I have been called to, yes, they've been pivotal moments in my life, like meeting my husband in France at a time when it was the last thing I expected. So there's been pivotal points like that. But there has also been a lot of inner journeying at some of those places, really quite tumultuous sometimes. And it may have been a past life type memory being released, where I've really connected in with that land, and the energy of that land has helped something be released within me, or it's just shown me. It's like the earth taught me in that place. It taught me something that was an integral part of the next step of my journey. And so that's what I wanted to write about in the chapter, because I think we don't see the earth in this way. You know, we forget our connection. I mean, even if we may go out and ground and go, oh, you know, we're part of the earth, but we don't always see it as a living being that we are a part of, and that our energy exchange with her is as an important part of our journey as any sort of mind decisions we make, or even, you know, any divine guidance we receive. And this is another reason I talk so much about the feet chakras and the importance of them, because they connect us with her energy. So sorry, I went way off and talking about different things there, but that's how it speaks to me, connecting with different places. That's why it's important. It's been very interesting for me, confined to Australia for the last 2 years, because I haven't been able to follow that. I always called it my gypsy spirit, but it was such an important part of me, connecting to those places. But instead, I have gone within. And when I grow down my root system, I take some of those roots to the places I feel drawn to in that moment, to bring their energy through. And I think I'm realizing, as exciting as it is to be there, it's actually not necessary. You know, we are shifting in such a way energetically that we can, by closing our eyes and sort of setting the intention of being in that space, we can be in that space and draw that energy and have that same exchange. So I think that's what my confinement to Australia has taught me.
I hear you, because I'm not one that really appreciates being told where I can and can't go. And I have found a similar thing, you know, first hitting up against that, oh, this really pisses me off, this really frustrates me, you know, and then getting through that and going, what can I do to experience it? So what is it that I'd like to experience about that place? And actually, I just created this over the weekend. So it was Grant's birthday, and we nonstop talk about Italy when we're talking about Grant, because it was just, this boy fell in love with pasta and you know, pistachio everything and all of these seafood things. And so his entire birthday was like honoring Italy. Every single thing had Italy woven. Like, we just had every aspect. And I was like, oh my gosh, we're in Italy right now. It's the same feeling as we had there. And we were reliving it with family members who had never been there, who hadn't had that experience with us, but they came on board for the journey as well. And it was such a good reminder for me as well, Jacqueline. It was like, oh, I can create this because I have it here in my mind and I can put it together and bring that experience. So I love this reminder.
Yeah. And something I want to share too, just going back to the earth and our connection to her right now. And I was pondering this morning, and I was thinking, in many ways, the earth is our stability right now, like more than ever. There's a lot of chaos going on at the level of humanity and the world, and the earth is our stability, and the earth is providing our support. And in many ways, I see her as guiding us as to our next steps, you know, tuning into the energy of where we are right now, or any other places that we feel connected with. That's where our guidance is really coming from right now. And I think that was the other thing that inspired me to write that chapter, because it feels so important to me to really bring awareness around our connection to the earth and our feeling of peace and oneness. And yeah, especially connection. I feel like that connection aspect is really important right now. Yeah.
It's true. You know, with the kind of meditations you lead and some conversations I've had, it's the same theme. It's like really feeling our roots go deep and connecting with the other roots, with the land, with all, like, this is what's going to hold us. We have to go deep down right now. And it will give us the guidance. It will give us the comfort and the steadiness. Jacqueline, where can people learn more about you and your work?
So you can go to my website, jacquelynatkins.com, and there's everything there. I also have a podcast called Biz Alchemy, which is where I show up every week. I'm not on social media. I made a decision a year ago to leave social media because it wasn't supporting the energy of my business. And obviously my business is very important to me. But you can also find me on Insight Timer, where I do live meditations, and I have a lot of meditations in the library there. So they're my three main places: Insight Timer, my podcast Biz Alchemy, and my website JacquelynAtkins.com.
Beautiful. I invite everyone to go check out something Jacqueline has. Once you connect to your business, it will completely change the way you approach your life and your business, how you approach yourself. Jacqueline, thank you so much for sharing your story, for being a bright light, for holding me down a whole lot. I love you and I appreciate you.
Thank you, Adriana. I love you too, and I love our journey together. Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. Until next time, here's to putting those roots down deep. We'll talk to you later.